Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we are doing a season preview for the VCT for the team in the Pacific, T1. T1 had a pretty decent year last year. They qualified for every international tournament, but they didn't end up going on a deep run in any of them. Being in the Pacific League, they did pretty well, but they weren't at the same level as a DRX or PaperX, but they had a pretty good grasp on that third place spot. Looking at their 2023 placements in lock-in, they placed 17th to 32nd during the Pacific League regular season, and playoffs they placed 3rd. During Masters Tokyo, they placed 9th to 10th, and then Champions a similar placement in 9th to 12th. So not bad results overall. You know, they're in the same league as DRX or PaperX, which are two very good teams, so they were able to stand their ground with those two teams, but just weren't at the same level. But T1 is an org that really wants success. They have a lot of success in the other Riot Games League of Legends, so they definitely want to have success with their Valorant roster. They've tried many times. They've had a roster for a while. It was a North American roster before, but this time it was a Pacific League roster, so all Asian players. And during the year, I thought that T1 was potentially a team that could be a dark horse. I thought that they were good. Again, they maybe didn't have the same talent level as a DRX or PaperX, but they held their own, and they seemed like they performed it pretty consistently overall. But there definitely just wasn't the amount of talent on the roster that you really need to go far. So going into the offseason, I thought, well, they just need to make a couple changes and maybe get someone that's, very talented, like maybe a player that of similar level to something on PaperX. Not saying that, they would get him or anything, but, something like that. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do it, and they decided to opt for a nearly completely rebuild. Looking at the players that are no longer on the org, we have Ban, Intro, Munchkin, and Kane. Kane was an off-season signing, but he only ended up staying for about 3 months, so he never actually played in the VCT with them. I guess scrims weren't going well, so they just didn't, they just decided to drop him and then let him find a better fit for himself. But the people replacing these players are Aizu, Excurate, is it just pronounced accurate? I don't know. Let me know. I don't really know how to say this. And Rossi from North America. Championships won by the org is a big old 0. Their 2023 MVP I put as Seiya player. He performed pretty consistently. He was quite good in his import over. He was playing on the guard the year before. So he goes to T1 where he can play in Tier 1 and be the resident Jet and Raze player, and he performed pretty well. Looking at the 2023 stats of all these players, starting with the 2 players that were on the roster last year. Seiya player, he had 905 kills, 782 deaths, 158 assists for a KD ratio of 1.15. In terms of characters he played, as I already said, Jet and Raze. Seiya player was good on the guard, he was good on T1. I think he just needed a better surrounding cast for T1 to really have a lot of success, but I am glad they kept him because there was no reason to get rid of him. And then Carpe, who on VLR is listed as their IGL, but he's not listed as their IGL on Liquipedia. But I'm making this video with the assumption that he's going to be the IGL for this team. Last year, he had 666 kills, 788 deaths, 462 assists for a KD ratio of 0.84. He played a lot of characters. He played Sova, Sky, Brimstone, Breach, Gecko, and Killjoy. So a lot of initiators there, so I guess that's his main bread and butter, but he can also fill in for smokes with Brimstone, and he can, I guess, play Sentinel with Killjoy. We'll see if maybe this year he, sets himself to just play one role. In the Pacific League, we see players try a lot of different roles to see what works. We have a lot of people switching roles. PaperX being a team that does that all the time. They run all kinds of wacky comps, so the Pacific League is much looser when it comes to their team comps. As you can see from all the characters that are on this board right here, there are so many goddamn characters that these players have played. But if Carpe can prove that he can give a lot to this team in terms of his IGLing, then it shouldn't be too much of a problem having him having a low KD ratio. But you would definitely like that number to be a lot more up. But, you're not really looking for your IGL to get all your frags. Now, looking at one of their offseason pickups, we have Aizu. Now, he played in Tier 2 last year in Japan, and in those Tier 2 competitions, he had 870 kills, 612 deaths, 135 assists, for a KD ratio of 1.42. He was his team's duelist player. He played Jet and Raze as well. We're probably not going to see him playing those 2 characters very much. When you already have Seiya player, you don't really need that as a replacement, but he has been playing smokes in off-season events and a little bit of initiator. He has played Yoru a couple times, so he'll probably be their smokes player is what I'm guessing that they stick with. but if they need him to jump on Duelist, then he can do that. Moving on to Accurate now, he didn't play Pro Valorant in 2023, at least as far as I could see from his VLR page and Liquipedia page. He has been playing in the off-season events for T1, so that does count, but in terms of during the VCT season, I didn't see any team that he was on or anything, so he hasn't played since 2022. So for his stats, I put down his stats in the Africa TV tournament. In that tournament, he had 138 kills, 125 deaths, 38 assists for a KD ratio of 1.10. In terms of characters that he played, they pretty much just threw everything at the wall for him. I guess they're trying to find something that works for him. He's probably going to be their flex player if just the sheer amount of roles he's played so far is to lead on to anything. But in that tournament, he played Brimstone, Chamber, Harbor, Cypher, Raze, and Astra. So if Accurate can be even almost as good as his brother Forsaken, who is probably the best player on Paper X, I highly doubt he's going to be even close to as good as Forsaken. But if he can be a solid player for T1, then they'll be happy with the pickup, and it should be very interesting to see T1 face Paper X during the season. Moving on to Rossi, so this is their American import player. He did play in Tier 2 last year. He split his time between FaZe Clan and Turtle Troop. For those two teams, he had 452 kills, 434 deaths, 254 assists for KD ratio of 1.04. For his roles, he played Initiator, he played Sky, Breach, Viper, KO, and Sova, so all initiators except for Viper. Moving on to Zeta, who was on the team last year. He is listed as their sub, so there's a decent chance he doesn't play that much, but I would not be surprised if we see Zeta play at least a decent amount. We've seen teams in the Pacific League switch players literally during matches, so I would not be surprised, especially if T1 struggles. I would not be surprised to see Zeta play his fair share of games. Last year, he had 715 kills, 726 deaths, 392 assists for a KD ratio of 0.98. Similar character select to Rossi, he played KO, Sova, Harbor, Breach, and Viper. So an initiator with 2 smoke rolls in there. So we definitely have a couple players in this roster that can fill that smokes role. I don't really see a player here that is specifically, a specialty player at smokes. One very interesting thing about this team when it comes to their new roster is we really don't have a lot of Tier 1 experience here. All 3 of their pickups in Izu, Accurate, and Rossi all mainly just have Tier 2 experience, at least last year they did. Accurate hasn't played significant Pro Valorant since 2022, and even then he was on a Tier 2 team that didn't exactly go very far. Izu played well in the Japan splits in Tier 2 last year, but he's going to be playing a different role on this team now that Saya player is probably going to be keeping that Jet Raze role. And these players not having a lot of Tier 1 experience makes me think that Zeta's definitely going to get into some games because he does. So the org's definitely taken a bit of a risk here with having so much inexperience within this roster. They're looking to be a contender in the Pacific. They're looking to hopefully win an international tournament. I don't know if these new additions put them in that conversation. Maybe they're hoping that these players can, grow together, can, become a cohesive unit despite not having a lot of super significant experience when it comes to, Tier 1 or international events. Saya players should improve as well. I'd be a bit surprised if he didn't. I think, now that he has more Tier 1 experience under his belt, I think he definitely is due for a breakout season. But we'll see. It's a really tough league in the Pacific. It's not going to be easy for this. It appears to be some team of misfits vibe going on here. It's going to be hard for them to be able to beat the upper echelon teams of the Pacific. Moving on to their 2023 map. So the best map was Lotus. They had a 6-2 record on it. Attack was 54%, defense was 59%. Fracture was another strong one for them, 7-4 record, with attack being 52% and defense being 51% when it comes to the win rate. Fracture is no longer in the map pool, so they're going to have to find a new map to be their second best map, and it's definitely going to be very important for this team to have a deep map pool when it comes to being competitive. Their worst maps, 2 maps that they're not going to have to worry about anymore. Haven, they had a 3-6 record on it. Attack was 48%, defense was 59%. Pearl, 2-7 record. Attack win percentage was 41, defense was 44. So both of those maps not in the map pools anymore. They will definitely be happy to learn that, but at the same time, this is a new team, so maybe those maps would have worked better with this new roster. We'll see how it shakes out for T1. I do think that they're going to still be competitive. I guess they're taking a chance on these Tier 2 guys. Not a bad idea. There's a lot of talent in Tier 2. Rossi being an import from America. We'll see how he does. I hope he knows Korean. I don't know what they're going to be calling in, but I assume anyone playing with Korean players probably knows Korean. But we'll see how it all turns out. I wish them the best. I really want Pacific to be very competitive this year. I think DRX is still going to be very good. PaperX should also be very good. But it's not going to be easy being a top team in their region. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you think T1 is going to compete for a top spot in the Pacific? Will they win a tournament? Will they get even close this time? Let me know what you guys think. Thank you all for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.